Hey everybody. Do you ever have anxiety? Probably. If you're like most people, you probably have anxiety, anxious about certain situations, maybe even get panic attacks, maybe even goes beyond that. Might be in certain situations, speaking publicly, social situations, maybe something to do with your job. That there are times in life where we are overcome with a sense of anxiety and maybe even, like I said, spilling over into panic attacks. So, how do we deal with it? So, sometimes there are individuals who are like inspirations in a certain sense in any field. And we could look to them and say, oh, look at that. Look at that. They soldiered through it and use them as an example for ourselves. So, recently, somebody passed away who would give us a very, very good lesson in how to deal with panic and anxiety and things of that nature. And that is a goalie, a hockey goalie by the name of Glenn Hall. Glenn Hall. I have him over here in hockey cards. I used to collect my hockey cards as a kid. He was an all-star in the 68-69 season. I was 8 years old, 9 years old at the time. A lot of good players on that team. Tim Horton. Yeah, the famous Tim Hortons in Canada, named after him. We got Bobby Hull, Gordie Howe. But I'm here to talk about Glenn Hall. And Glenn Hall, he played 502 consecutive games in goal. 502 consecutive games in goal. They called him Mr. Goalie. You see, today, they say that record will never be broken. Because today, when teams have 2 games in a row, for instance, one night after another, they seldom play the same goalie. They'll play the backup goalie in the second game or the first game, as the case may be. But Glenn Hall, 502 consecutive games over the span of 8 seasons. Now, here's the thing. Before every game, it's reputed, it's known this, he threw up. He was so nervous. He was so anxious. Before every game, it was like a ritual. He vomited. That's how nervous he was. Think of that now. And here's this guy, Mr. Goalie. Well, broke the record, has the record, and it'll never be broken of playing the most consecutive games as a goalie in hockey. You would think after, a few seasons, he'd get used to it. He'd be able to just, he's used to this. He's done this before. He's like, it could be on autopilot. He could probably do it with his eyes closed. No. Game after game, season after season, he always had such anxiety and panic that he would barf, he would vomit, throw up. So you see a guy like that is able to, despite that, acknowledge it, recognize it, accept it, and still go on and become great. He's an all-star, Hall of Famer, one of the greatest goalies ever, and become great. So just because you have anxiety and concern and nervousness about something, okay. Therapists will always tell us, or 12-step programs, one of the first things they tell us is what you're experiencing is not uncommon. And that helps us to know that it's not just me, because oftentimes when we have some sort of weakness, challenge, difficulty, we think we're the only person in the world who has this. No, you are not the only person in the world who has this. Plenty of people have this, and some of the greatest people have this. Glenn Hall had this. Now, there's other ways of dealing with it. There's breathing exercises. There's what we have in Tehillim. King David, all the time in Tehillim and Psalms. We say in Hallel, Min HaMeitzar, from the straits, from the difficulties, Karati Yah, I call to God. And if you read the translation, you read the Tehillim, the Psalms in the Hallel prayer, you see throughout Tehillim, throughout Psalms, King David deals with his concerns, his fears, his worries, how he constantly has to turn to God for assistance to get him through those difficult moments. You have panic attacks, you have anxiety. Welcome to the club. Welcome to the club. So did King David, and so did Glenn Hall. Mr. Goalie, one of the greatest goalies in the history of the game. Hopefully that helps us in accepting what we have when we're nervous in situations and dealing with it. And like Glenn Hall did, and like King David did, they soldiered through it and became great, fantastic individuals, each in their respective fields. Have a good Shabbat.